Doing?
Doing all right. How about you?
I'm good. Just start off with some basic stuff. When and why did you start playing the guitar?
I watched old videos of Metallica playing live, and I was watching that, thinking I need to learn how to do that because that looks like
Yeah, Metallica pretty much inspired us all, one way or another.
yeah, for sure. That was the main thing, really. It looked like
Yeah,
it was a really good time, and I fell in love with music, and I wanted to know how
yeah.
to do it.
That's awesome. Following that, what was the first guitar you ever got?
The first guitar I ever had, I learned on a Squire Strat.
Yeah,
It's just a rental guitar. My
yeah,
parents didn't buy me one because they weren't sure if I was going to stick with it. So after I stuck with it for a while, I think the first guitar that I actually owned was, I think it was my Epiphone SG. I
Oh,
think,
nice.
I think that was my first guitar that I ever had.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first ones I ever bought too. I sold it ages ago, but they're awesome guitars.
Yes, I was playing a lot of AC/DC on it.
Yeah. Uh, what would your favorite guitarist be now or of all time or whatever?
I don't think I have a favorite guitarist ever, but I'd say in the last few years I've been listening to a lot of Al Di Meola.
Yeah,
He's way up there.
yeah, that's sick. And what kind of gear are you using now and stuff like that?
Um, Playing ESP guitars using EMG passive humbucking pickups, the H4. I just started trying those out for the first time like a couple months ago. I love them. I pick really hard, and I wanted to hear that.
Are
And
they are they a bit cleaner than the normal active pickup?
yeah, they're still very hot. They still have like great crunch, but they're a little more dynamic and not so like compressed and squashed like 81s.
Yeah, and you were using Framus guitars for a while too.
Yeah, I was. I'm using ESPs right now. I still love Framus guitars. They make great stuff. Um, but ESP was able to make my dream guitar a real thing, and Framus wasn't able to do that. So
So
both companies make really good stuff. Um, but I'm using those with EMGs, Ernie Ball strings, PV amps.
yeah, so can we expect a David Sanchez signature ESP anytime soon?
I don't know. Email ESP and bug them.
Yeah, yeah, because you were with I remember watching old Havok videos. You were with ESP for a while, and then for like that conformicide era, you switched to the Framus, and now you're back with them. Was it just a comfort thing, or?
Like I said, I've had this idea for a guitar drawn up since I was a teenager, and Framus was just not able to do it, and ESP told me they could make it real, so
Yeah,
I have to go with that just because like I don't want to be playing other people's signature guitars and stuff. Like if I can have my dream guitar built, of course I'm gonna do that.
we were playing the Wolf Hoffman Framus.
Yeah.
Yeah. What always motivates you to play more and just be the best that you can?
Listening to musicians that they're way better than me.
Yeah, the age-old secret. And following on that, kind of, what would be your favorite? Like, what's one of your favorite newer bands that's kind of up and coming or just kind of breaking the mainstream?
Well, they're still very underground, but one of my favorite bands. They've been around for a long time, but not enough people know about them. They're called Psychosomatic. They're
Yeah,
from,
I've heard.
they're from Sacramento, and they're a really sweet band. One of my favorite bands. They're super fast, really tight, really good riffs, and more people need to know about them.
Yeah, and I seem to be seeing in this new age of metal with all the 8-string and 9-string guitars, there's a solid kind of newer movement of thrash bands like you guys and Havok, and you have Warbringer and Ex Mortis. What do you think do you think there's any big differences between the new era of thrash and that kind of classic 80s thrash? Or
Well, I think I can't speak too much for other bands, but I know for our band, there's a lot of influence from other kinds of music that like sneak into our sound. And I think the biggest difference has got to just be like having a wider musical perspective, our peripheral vision of what's possible in music much bigger than it was in the 80s, you know?
Yeah, because I really appreciated on the Conformicide record, you had with Nick Shins on bass, the really funky bass lines, and you had a lot of, a few acoustic guitar passages. Was that just came from listening to other things than metal?
Oh, sure. I'm a huge fan of funk music,
Yeah.
and funk pretty much always has really good bass lines. And
Yeah.
I'm throwing that shit into what we do. I mean, funk is a really heavy genre of music. It's just not minor. It's not like evil, but it's heavy as fuck. Super punchy, and there's a lot of energy and attack. And I love that about funk.
Yeah, and I feel like with metal in particular, the bass kind of gets underlooked, kind of thrown under all the guitars and the bass, and not the bass, the drums and everything. Do you think the bass is really what should be carrying the band and should be pushed up to the front a lot more?
It shouldn't be like the main focus of the band, unless like if that is the point of your band, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. But we try to give like equal spotlight to all the instruments in our band. And in metal, so often you have the bass just playing the guitar riff an octave lower. Kind of like, in my opinion, that's a waste of having a bass player. Like, do its own bass line. Why would if you want the bass to just follow the guitar the whole time, just get an octave pedal and you don't have to split your money with an extra dude.
Yeah. So what would be your opinion on bands that kind of push the bass down to where it's either not heard or it's just really not shining to its full potential?
Like I said, I just think it's a waste of a bass player, and it's going to play the guitar riff the whole time. It thickens things up and tonally makes things sound bigger and fatter, but like musically, it's not as dense as it could be. You can create so much different emotion and vibe and feel and rhythm, and you can get really weird, and you can completely alter the sound of a riff by putting a bass line to it. That's not the same thing. You could loop a guitar riff 4 times, and each time make the bass change on them and make it sound like it was all one fresh piece of music, even though the guitar just went repeated exactly identical 4 times in a row. The bass can really do a lot for changing the texture. And on our music, especially the newer stuff, there's pretty big attention paid to that kind of thing.
Yeah, and kind of building off the statement of emotion, I really, and I think other people really appreciate, especially with the new album, in such a politically correct era, and nobody wants to offend anybody. I really just love how the Conformicide album kind of doesn't care about any emotions. It doesn't take any political sides. It just says everything is wrong and kind of needs to be restarted. Was that your main focus of that whole album?
I was really frustrated and kind of angry at the world when I was writing the lyrics for that record. I broke my wrist and I couldn't play guitar properly for about 9 months. And that's when I was writing the lyrics for the record. So I think that had a lot to do with why they came out so angry.
Yeah.
had a lot to say, and I got most of it out, I think, on that record. You know, a lot of people commented. I'm glad you said what you did, because a lot of people have commented to me in interviews and stuff like, wow, this album seems to be very political. And I kind of always correct them and tell them what you seem to notice. Like, it's anti-political.
Yeah.
It's like,
but he's wrong.
Both sides of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And based off of what you said about it being very just a lot of rage, you can hear it when you listen to it. The vocals are a lot more intense than the vocals on other records, such as Time Is Up and things like that. Can we expect the same kind of vocals and rage and drive on the next Havok record?
On the next Havok record, I expect to have a lot more melody in the vocals, but I'm still going to scream my head off like I do on All Over Conformicide, because it's fun to do, and sometimes that's the right thing that the song needs. But even though I plan on having more vocal melody, I don't plan on it sounding like a crybaby emo band, you know?
Yeah.
Have much bowls.
Yeah. And based off the singing, do you have, because from what I know, at least, you've never seen, like, we have bands like Metallica and Megadeth where they kind of wear their voices out and blow it out. Do you have a specific vocal technique as to not to ruin your voice, or?
I try to warm it up before every show and before recording. That helps a lot. And there was one tour back in like 2009 where I blew my voice out really bad because we played like 3 shows in a row where there was like no monitors. Mm-hmm. So I was having to shout extra loud to be able to hear myself from the main PA. And a few nights in a row of that, I completely blew out my voice in the middle of like a 2.5-month long tour.
Oh, wow.
Ever since then, like, my voice has never really sounded the same. It's a lot. Nowadays, we have in-ear monitors, and I can actually hear my voice every night, which is a huge help. And I don't know. I mean, time will tell. I might blow my voice out someday. I'm not a whisperer on stage, you know. I get pretty into it. But as far as like blowing my voice out completely, that hasn't happened in a really, really long time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I noticed if you listen to all the other Havok records, Conformicide, it seems like you're singing a lot higher, and the screens aren't as. I mean, on all the records, your voice is a bit higher, but did that have something to do with it and making your singing style a bit higher pitched, or?
I think what that had to do with is just the intensity of the lyrics and the anger that was coming out of my body. I think naturally, the more energetic things are, the more higher frequency they are. There's more energy. You're gonna get a higher pitch than just basic like laws of physics. Yeah. So me saying the really angry things that I wrote lyrically on the record, I think it like demanded that my vocals were kind of in a higher register, because some of the things that I'm saying on there are not just, shit spilled out on a page. Like, sometimes when I'm singing those songs, some of those lyrics, I genuinely get very, very pissed off while I'm saying them. And I think that helps me be able to get some of those notes out, because some of that shit is not easy to sing. Yeah. I really have to get like energized, and I have to get angry to pull it off. So got a lot of my anger out on the last record. So I don't anticipate the next one being as angry, but it'll still have some of that stuff, no doubt.
Yeah, and do you know when we could expect that new Havok release, or?
Sometime early next year.
Oh, all right. So what would be your advice for beginners, whether it's starting to sing, play guitar, or start a band?
If you're starting to play guitar and you want to get good, you have to practice a lot. It's not like being a DJ or
Yeah.
a rapper. Even though like being a DJ or a rapper takes, you got to practice to get better. Like the musical instrument, like a guitar, you have to really, really put the time in. You can't, get a program for $200 and just make beats and everything just sounds great. Guitar is not like that. You got to get these things very specialized. It takes a lot of time, many, many, many hours, dedication. As far as like getting into singing, I mean, you have a good voice or you just love doing it. Whether you have a great voice or you suck, you can get to a point where you sound great. Some people are just naturally gifted and they just have it, and that's great. It's good for them. But some people have to work much harder to get to a similar place. But I think it all needs to start from a point of wanting to have a good time. The goal is to make a bunch of money by playing music or being a singer. Like, good fucking luck.
Yeah.
The odds are stacked way against you. Even genres of music that do make a ton of money, like it's still a ruthless industry and very hard to get to a point where, you're an incredibly successful career in a musician that has a career. That's very, very tough to get to. As far as starting a band, you got to find people that have a similar mindset and have the same like long-term goals as if you play music with other people and you guys don't necessarily like the same kinds of music, or you don't want to be creating the same kinds of music, like, or just butt heads all the time or whatever, that's never going to work. You got to find people that want a similar thing to what you want. That's very tough to find.
And here's a really big one that's discussed today. What do you think about people saying, I mean, in the mainstream at least, metal gets a very bad rap as being angry and causing violence. What's your opinion on that?
I don't think it causes violence. I think it prevents violence. When people go to a show and throw each other around, it's not much different than a fucking angry hockey player or a football player that goes out on in the rink or on the field and beats the shit out of other people, like, for fun. It's no different than that. So in fact, I think it's even healthier than that because it's got music going on at the same time. Healthy release.
I always tell people it's better to let the anger out than just suppress it inside and push it down, because everyone feels these emotions and they need to get out in a healthy way.
For sure. Yeah, I'd much rather some dude go get some of his rage out by like moshing than letting it fester away, chip away at his soul, and then he lets loose somewhere else in a different kind of environment. No, it's a good thing. It's therapy. Yeah,
for sure. So speaking of moshing, you guys are known for the slogan, the T-shirt, "No karate in the pit." Just to hear it from you, what's your real opinion on people throwing their hands around and crowd killing at these shows?
Well, nobody goes to a show to have their jaw broken and to get their beer that they just spent $12 on get kicked all over their clothes. Nobody's there for that. So when people are doing that shit in an area where obviously nobody else is trying to get involved with said thing, crowd killing as they call it, like, dude, you're not just like expressing yourself and having fun. Like, you're actively being an asshole.
Yeah.
Have you ever? One thing, if no one's around and you're doing that, like, whatever, have fun. But when there's people around you and you're kicking people and knocking beers out of hands and like giving people black eyes and broken jaws and shit, like you deserve any harm that comes your way.
Yeah.
Eating it in that manner.
Yeah.
Not advocating for people to get into fights with people, but like just don't beat a guy in the first place.
Yeah. Have you ever seen this at a Havok show in particular, of people doing this?
Super rare. Might have seen it a couple times, but we don't play the kind of music that typically brings out those kinds of moshers, if you can call it that.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking some people just might go there and do it just because they know about the slogan, just to mess with the band or just be a jerk.
If it did happen at a Havok show, I think that person would probably get the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, that's what I always think, because everyone's always, usually most of the time, very unified at these shows that if anyone's causing trouble, it's going to be put out pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone's there to have a good time, not to get injured or have their beer spilled all over them. So
yeah. So the last question, kind of a fun one that I've been asking recently. What is your opinion on the secret to great metal hair?
What is the secret to great metal hair?
Yeah.
A severe lack of haircuts.
Yeah. I think when I was talking to Chase from Ex Mortis, he just said, just wash it and don't.
Yeah. It just takes a lot of time, and stay away from scissors.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to me, man. It was a fun time.
Yeah, dude. I'll keep in touch with you.
Yeah, totally. All right. See ya.
Peace.